The hallway was silent, except for the faint hum of broken lights. Ethan's boots echoed as he moved slowly, rifle raised, eyes scanning every shadow. The alien station was a graveyard now, walls scorched, floors littered with debris, and the metallic scent of burnt circuits filling the air. He didn't know how much longer the place would hold before collapsing. But he had one goal: find any survivors. A faint sound reached him, not the creak of metal, not the hiss of leaking air. This was softer, almost human. It was a voice, low and sharp. Speaking in a language he didn't know, he followed the sound through a half-open bulkhead, stepping into a dim room lit by a single flickering panel. That's when he saw her. She was chained to the wall. Her wrists bound in heavy cuffs connected to the floor. Her skin had a pale shimmer, faintly reflecting the light, and her silver hair hung in messy strands over her face. But it wasn't her beauty that made him pause. It was the strange, glowing shape between her legs. The alien girl noticed his eyes almost immediately. Her lips curled into something between anger and embarrassment. "You keep staring, human." "Is it because of what's between my legs?" she said, her voice steady but sharp. Ethan froze, unsure how to answer. The device was unlike anything he had seen before. It wasn't armor, and it wasn't clothing. It was embedded into her body. A smooth, metallic structure with soft blue light pulsing inside. It connected two thin cables that ran along her thighs. Disappearing under her torn suit, it looked alien, dangerous, and important. "I don't have time to explain," Ethan said finally, lowering his rifle slightly. "I'm here to get you out." She narrowed her eyes, her tone dripping with distrust. "Get me out. And then what?" "Sell me to the highest bidder. Take the device for yourself." Ethan took a step closer, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, his voice low. "But if we don't leave now, neither of us will make it out alive." She tilted her head, studying him as if searching for a lie in his face. The chains rattled as she shifted. "Do you even know what this is?" she asked, glancing down toward the glowing device. Ethan shook his head slightly. "I can guess it's keeping you alive." Her eyes widened for a brief moment, but then her expression hardened again. The station shook suddenly, a deep rumble passing through the floor, somewhere above. Something heavy collapsed with a metallic crash. She flinched at the sound, but quickly masked it. "Fine," she said coldly. "But if you're lying to me, human, I'll make sure you regret it." Ethan approached cautiously, pulling a small cutting tool from his belt. The cuffs were thick, alien metal, not something you could break. Without the right tool, sparks flew as he worked on the first chain. She watched him closely, her breathing slow but tense. "You didn't answer my question," she said after a moment. Ethan kept his eyes on the chain. "What question?" "Why you were staring," she said, her voice softer now, but still edged with suspicion. Ethan paused, the truth sitting heavy on his tongue. But he wasn't ready to tell her yet. The last link broke with a snap. She rubbed her wrists, testing her freedom. Though she was clearly weak, Ethan offered his hand, but she ignored it, standing on her own with a slight tremor in her legs. He noticed her flinch when she put weight on them. The device between her legs seemed to react, pulsing brighter for a moment. "That thing," Ethan said finally. "It's not just part of you, is it?" Her eyes met his, and for the first time, there was something else there. "Fear, it's the only thing keeping me alive," she admitted quietly. "And if they find me, they'll cut it out while I'm still breathing." Before Ethan could ask more, the lights in the hallway outside flickered and went dark. Heavy footsteps echoed in the distance. The enemy was coming, and they didn't have much time. Ethan grabbed her arm gently, pulling her toward the door. "Then we'd better move," he said. She hesitated only a second before following. As they slipped into the shadows of the broken corridor, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about her words. and the strange truth he hadn't told her yet, that he wasn't staring out of curiosity or desire. He was staring because he recognized the tech, and if he was right, then saving her wasn't just about her survival. It might change the fate of an entire war. The corridor was darker now, lit only by the faint emergency strips along the floor. Ethan led the way, keeping his rifle raised, while the alien girl followed close behind. Her movements were stiff, and every few steps she winced as if the glowing device reacted to her muscles. He could hear her breathing getting heavier, and he knew she wouldn't last long at this pace. They reached a junction where smoke curled from a shattered vent. Ethan stopped and motioned for her to stay low. Voices echoed from down the left hallway. Enemy soldiers. The sound of their heavy armor made the air vibrate. Ethan pointed right. Leading her into a narrow maintenance passage, she stepped over a fallen pipe, her hand brushing the wall for balance. "You're not military," she said suddenly. T glanced back at her. "What makes you think that?" "Your armor," she replied. "It's mismatched, scavenged, like a mercenary's." Ethan didn't answer, instead focusing on the faint light at the end of the passage. When they emerged into another section, the station's damage was worse. Walls caved inward, the floor tilted slightly from structural collapse. He stopped near a broken door and scanned the area, making sure they were alone. Finally, she spoke again, her voice lower. "You don't know what you've gotten into. Human, that thing between my legs." She paused, clearly uncomfortable with the words. "It's not just keeping me alive, it's something the enemy would kill entire cities to get." Ethan leaned against the wall, studying her face. "I figured it was important," he said. She shook her head, her silver hair falling forward. "No, you don't understand. This is a core." The way she said it made the word feel heavy. "A living energy heart, grown from my own DNA, connected to my nervous system, and linked to one of the most powerful warships in my people's fleet." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "So that's why they kept you alive." She gave a bitter laugh. "Yes, not because they cared, but because I'm the only one who can activate that ship." He stepped closer. "And if they kill you, then the core dies too," she said simply. "The ship becomes useless." Her voice trembled for a second before she steadied it. "But if someone else tries to remove it while I'm still alive, it kills me instantly," Ethan processed her words quickly. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was about keeping the core out of enemy hands. But he also saw something in her eyes, the kind of pain that came from being treated like a tool, not a person. The station shook. Again, this time harder, and dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere nearby, a heavy blast went off, making the floor vibrate. Ethan glanced toward the sound. Then back at her. "We need to move fast," he said. She nodded reluctantly, clearly weaker now. They headed down a slanted hallway toward the escape bays. As they moved, she spoke again, almost to herself. "You still haven't told me why you were staring earlier." Ethan's steps slowed. "I told you, now's not the time." Her voice sharpened. "If you know something about this core, I deserve to know." They reached a sealed bulkhead door. Ethan began working the manual release, the metal screeching as it unlocked. He didn't look at her as he spoke. "I've seen one before." Her eyes widened. "That's impossible. There are only 6 in the galaxy." Ethan glanced at her. "Then, I've seen one of 6, he said quietly. "And I saw what happened when the enemy got their hands on it. They turned an entire planet into ash." The words hung heavy between them. For a moment, she looked away, her hands tightening into fists. "That's what they'll do again if they take me," she whispered. Ethan finally opened the bulkhead, the door groaning as it slid aside. "Then we won't let that happen," he said. They slipped into the next corridor. This one half collapsed and littered with fallen beams. As they climbed over the debris, a sudden sound froze them both. The hiss of a plasma rifle charging. Ethan turned slowly, spotting 3 enemy soldiers at the far end of the corridor, weapons aimed. The alien girl's breath caught. "They found us," she said. Ethan pulled her behind a half-broken wall. As the first shot fired, the beam seared past. Scorching the metal, he returned fire, hitting one soldier in the shoulder, sending him spinning. The girl stayed low, clutching the device between her legs as if protecting it from the shockwaves. The glow flickered, and Ethan noticed something strange. It wasn't just reacting to her fear. It was responding to the battle. When the last soldier fell, Ethan turned to her. "That thing reacts to danger, doesn't it?" She hesitated, then nodded. "It's bonded to my heartbeat, my adrenaline," she said softly. Ethan glanced down at the still glowing core. "Then we better keep you calm," he said, "because if it overloads, I'm guessing we won't survive." The smoke in the corridor was thick now, stinging Ethan's eyes. He pulled the alien girl forward, moving quickly but careful not to jolt her too much. Every time her steps faltered, the core between her legs pulsed brighter. It wasn't just a glow anymore, it was almost like it was alive, reacting to every heartbeat. They reached a split in the passage. To the left was a collapsed section, blocked by twisted beams. To the right, a long hallway that led toward the docking bay, but the sound of voices echoed from there. Ethan pressed his back against the wall, peeking around the corner. 2 enemy soldiers were patrolling, their rifles swinging lazily as they walked. He whispered, "We can't go that way. They'll see us." She glanced at him, her silver hair falling over her face. "Then what's the other choice?" Ethan scanned the ceiling, spotting a maintenance hatch. Without hesitation, he crouched and clasped his hands. "Step up," he said. She gave him a doubtful look, but placed her foot in his palms. With a grunt, he lifted her until she could reach the latch. The hatch opened with a metallic creak. Ethan jumped up and pulled himself in after her. The maintenance tunnel was narrow, forcing them to crawl. Every sound seemed louder here. The groan of stressed metal, the hiss of steam from broken pipes. Her breathing was uneven, and Ethan could see the core flickering weakly. "How much time do you have before that thing stops working?" he asked quietly. She didn't meet his eyes. "Hours. Maybe less if I keep moving like this." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Then we move faster." They followed the tunnel until it ended above another section of the station. Ethan peered through the grate and froze. Below them was the docking bay, or what was left of it. The floor was littered with smoking wreckage, and enemy troops were guarding the remaining ships. He spotted one small shuttle in the corner, half hidden behind a stack of crates. "That's our ride," he whispered. But as they moved toward the hatch to drop down, the core suddenly pulsed brighter. The alien girl gasped, clutching at it. "What is it?" Ethan asked urgently. "They've activated a scanner," she said through clenched teeth. "They're looking for the core signal. They'll know exactly where I am." Ethan cursed under his breath. "Then we'll have to run for it." He kicked the grate loose, dropping down onto the bay floor. She followed, landing with a faint hiss before the nearest soldier could react. Ethan opened fire, forcing them to dive for cover. The alien girl stayed behind the crates, but Ethan noticed something. The core was glowing fiercely now. It was like it was feeding on the chaos. Suddenly, a crackling wave of energy burst out from it, sweeping across the floor. Enemy rifles sparked and died, their power cells fried in seconds. The soldiers shouted in confusion, their weapons useless. "What did you just do?" Ethan asked, eyes wide. She shook her head, breathing hard. "I didn't do anything. It reacts to threats on its own." Ethan didn't waste time. "Good, let's use that." They sprinted toward the shuttle, but one of the enemy commanders stepped into their path. He was taller, heavier armored, and holding a blade that shimmered with plasma light. Ethan raised his rifle, but the commander was fast. Slashing it in half with one swing, the alien girl stepped forward instinctively. The core's glow reaching a dangerous intensity. "Don't!" Ethan shouted, but it was too late. The core released another shockwave. The commander was thrown back, armor sparking, but the girl staggered and nearly collapsed. Ethan caught her before she fell. "You can't keep doing that. You'll burn yourself out," he said sharply. They made it to the shuttle, Ethan slamming the hatch closed behind them. The console flickered to life. But the systems were damaged. "She won't fly far," Ethan muttered. The girl sat heavily in the co-pilot's seat. Her eyes half-lidded. "Just get us away from here," she said weakly. Ethan powered up the engines, the shuttle shuddering as it lifted through the viewport. He saw enemy ships beginning to move. "We'll never outrun them," he said under his breath, but before he could think of another plan. The girl reached for the console. Her fingers touched a single button, and the core's glow flared again a moment later. The shuttle's engines roared with unnatural speed, launching them forward like a dart. Ethan gripped the controls, fighting to keep it steady. The girl's head fell back against the seat, her breathing shallow. "That was the ship's link to the core," she murmured. "It can power almost anything. But it takes from me." Ethan glanced at her pale face and clenched his fists on the controls. Whatever this core really was, he knew one thing for certain. If she died, they'd lose more than just her life, and he wasn't going to let that happen. Asterisk, the shuttle rattled as it cut through the remains of the station's debris field. Metal fragments pinged against the hull like rain on glass. Ethan kept one hand on the controls and the other near the sidearm strapped to his thigh. He didn't trust that the enemy had given up so easily. The alien girl sat slumped in the co-pilot's seat, her silver hair falling across her face. The core between her legs pulsed faintly now. The glow weaker than before, Ethan could see the strain on her face. The way her fingers gripped the armrest as though holding herself together. "You're running on empty," he said quietly. She gave a dry laugh. "I've been running on empty since the day they put this thing in me." For a moment, the cabin was silent except for the hum of the engines. Then the proximity alarm blared. Ethan cursed under his breath, checking the scanner. 2 enemy interceptors were closing in fast from behind. "They're not letting us go," he muttered. The alien girl lifted her head slowly, her eyes narrowing at the display. "We can't outrun them," she said, her voice hoarse. Ethan tightened his grip on the controls. "Then we fight." She shook her head. "You can't fight them in this shuttle. The weapons are barely functional." Ethan glanced at her. "What about the core? Can it do whatever it did back there again?" She looked down at it, her hand brushing over the smooth metal surface. "It can, but every time it releases that kind of energy, it takes something from me." Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Strength, memory, life? I don't know. What I'll lose next?" He hesitated. Using it could save them, but at what cost? Before he could decide, the first blast from the interceptors struck the shuttle. Shaking it violently, panels rattled, warning lights flickered. The alien girl gritted her teeth. "If we don't stop them now, they'll tear this ship apart." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we stop them, but on my terms." He veered sharply toward a dense asteroid cluster ahead. The sudden move caught the interceptors off guard, buying them a few seconds inside the shadow of the largest asteroid. He powered down the shuttle's main systems. The ship drifted in silence, hidden in the rocks. The girl looked at him in confusion. "What are you doing?" "Buying time," Ethan replied. "We can use the core's pulse. But not just to blast them away. We can use it to fry their sensors so they can't find us again." She hesitated. "That's risky. I'd have to control the output, not just release it. And I've never tried that before." Ethan met her gaze. "You trust me?" Her lips curved into a bitter smile. "I don't have much choice, do I?" He moved to the co-pilot seat, watching as she closed her eyes. The core's light began to grow, slow at first, then brighter with each breath she took. Sweat formed on her brow, her fingers twitching as if she was gripping something invisible. Ethan could feel the static in the air, his hair standing on end through the viewport. The two interceptors appeared again, scanning the area. The girl's breathing quickened. The glow now almost blinding. "Now," Ethan said. She released the energy in a controlled wave, a shimmering ripple of blue light spreading out from the shuttle. The enemy ships jerked violently, their sensor arrays sparking, and then they veered off in opposite directions, blind and disoriented. The shuttle's lights flickered back on, but Ethan immediately noticed the girl. She had slumped forward, her breathing shallow. "Hey, stay with me," he said, reaching out to steady. Her eyes fluttered open, but they were unfocused. "I did it," she whispered, "but I can't feel my legs." Ethan's heart tightened. "You'll get it back," he said firmly. Though he wasn't sure himself, she gave a small laugh, though it was weak. "You say that like you know?" For a while, neither of them spoke. Ethan guided the shuttle toward the coordinates of a safe zone, an abandoned mining station rumored to still have medical supplies. The silence was heavy, the kind that comes when words aren't enough. Finally, she broke it. "You could have left me back there," she said quietly. "You should have the cores too dangerous to keep around." Ethan glanced at her. "And leave you for them to carve open." "Not happening." Her lips curved slightly, the smallest of smiles. "You're either the bravest human I've met, or the stupidest." Ethan smirked. "Maybe both." The shuttle drifted into the shadow of the mining station. Its massive structure loomed like a sleeping giant. Lights long dead. Ethan powered down the engines and looked at her. "Rest here. I'll check if it's safe." She shook her head. "No. I'm coming with you," he frowned. "You can barely stand." She met his eyes with quiet defiance. "Then you'll just have to carry me." The mining station's airlock groaned as it opened. A faint hiss echoed through the empty corridors as Ethan stepped inside. The alien girl leaning against his arm for support. The place smelled of dust and rust, the kind of abandoned space that hadn't felt life in years. Their footsteps echoed too loudly in the silence, making every shadow feel alive. "You're sure this place is safe?" she whispered. "Safe enough," Ethan replied, scanning the area with his rifle raised. She gave a small snort. "That's not exactly comforting, human." They moved deeper until they found a storage room. Metal shelves lined the walls, some still holding sealed crates. Ethan set her down gently on a low bench. "Stay here, I'll see what's usable," he said, but her silver eyes followed him. Not with distrust this time, but with curiosity. As he opened crates and pulled out old medkits, she finally spoke. "You still haven't told me the truth." Ethan paused, his back to her. "What truth?" "Why you keep staring," she said, her voice calm but firm. "It's not just because of the core. I can feel it. There's something else." He stayed quiet for a moment, pulling a scanner from the kit and kneeling beside her. "I wasn't staring for the reason you think," he said finally. Her head tilted slightly. "Then why?" He ran the scanner slowly over the core, watching the faint readouts flicker. "Because I've seen one before," he admitted. Her eyes widened. "That's impossible," she said. "There are only 6 cores, and none have ever been in human hands." Ethan's gaze met hers, his expression unreadable. 7 years ago, my unit was sent to a planet called Rathofor," he began. "It was supposed to be a simple recon mission. But we found something buried under the ice, a wrecked alien ship with a core still inside." Her breath caught. "What happened to it?" His jaw tightened. "The enemy found us before we could secure it. They killed everyone but me, and when they powered it up, they turned the whole planet into glass." She stared at him, the weight of his words settling like cold metal in the air. "That's why you looked at me like that," she whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. "I recognized the pattern, the glow. I wasn't staring at you. I was staring at the thing killing you." For a moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the core between her legs. Then she gave a small, almost sad smile. "I thought you were just another human." With wandering eyes, she said softly. Ethan smirked faintly. "Sorry to disappoint." He began treating the shallow cuts on her arms, his movements careful. She studied his face. "You lost people to the core before, so why save me?" Ethan didn't look up. "Because you're not the core," he said simply. "You're a person. And no one should be caged for what they're forced to carry." Her chest tightened at his words. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not even among her own kind. For so long she had been a tool, a weapon. Never someone worth saving. For herself, she looked away, blinking quickly as if to hide the heat in her eyes. They sat in silence for a few moments until the floor beneath them rumbled faintly. Ethan's head snapped up. "That wasn't the station settling," he said. She straightened. "They found us again." Ethan quickly helped her stand, though her legs trembled. She placed a hand on his arm, stopping him, "If they catch me, you can't let them take me alive," she said. Her tone suddenly hard. Ethan's eyes darkened. "Don't ask me to do that. You don't understand," she said urgently. "If they take me, they won't just kill me. They'll use me to destroy worlds." The weight of her words settled heavy between them, but Ethan shook his head. "Then we make sure they never take you." The storage room lights flickered, shadows shifting. Across the walls, heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. Getting closer, Ethan drew his rifle, motioning for her to stay behind him. Her hand lingered on his shoulder for a heartbeat before she stepped back. "I trust you, human," she said quietly. "Don't make me regret it." The footsteps grew louder in the corridor. Ethan's pulse quickened, his rifle steady as he aimed at the door. The alien girl stood behind him, her hand lightly gripping the core between her legs as if bracing. For what was coming, the faint blue glow pulsed faster. Reacting to her heartbeat, the door slid open with a hiss. 3 enemy soldiers stepped inside, their armor gleaming in the dim light. The lead soldier's helmet tilted slightly as his gaze locked on the girl. "There she is," he said coldly. "The carrier." Ethan didn't wait for them to finish. His rifle barked, the first shot slamming into the lead soldier's chest plate. The enemy staggered but didn't fall, their armor absorbing most of the impact. The other 2 spread out, one taking cover behind a crate, the other advancing quickly. "Stay back." Ethan barked over his shoulder. The girl ignored him. Stepping to the side so she could see the attackers, the core's glow intensified. Crackling faintly with energy, one soldier lunged toward her, but before he could get close, a wave of blue light surged from the core, throwing him against the wall. The shockwave made the lights flicker, and the walls groaned under the strain. Ethan glanced back at her. "That took a lot out of you, didn't it?" She was pale, her breathing shallow. "I can do it again." "But not many more times," she admitted, before Ethan could respond. A deeper, heavier sound echoed from the hallway. The floor vibrated under heavy steps. A massive figure ducked through the doorway, the enemy commander, his armor thicker, his weapon a long spear glowing with plasma. Ethan's gut tightened. "This one's mine," he muttered. The commander's voice was like metal grinding on stone. "Step aside, human, and I might let you live." Ethan smirked without humor. Not a chance. The fight was fast and brutal. The commander swung the spear with deadly precision, sparks flying as it clashed against Ethan's rifle. Ethan dodged and countered, but every blow from the spear shook his arms to the bone. Behind them, the alien girl clung to the wall, watching with wide eyes. The core's glow pulsed erratically, sensing the danger. A sudden strike from the commander knocked Ethan's rifle away. The weapon clattered across the floor. The commander raised the spear for the killing blow, but before it could fall, a blinding surge of energy erupted from the girl. The shockwave slammed into the commander, sending him crashing into the far wall. Armor sparking violently, the girl fell to her knees, gasping for breath. Ethan rushed to her side. That was too much. He said urgently. She shook her head weakly. It wasn't enough. He's still moving. The commander rose slowly, smoke curling from his armor. His helmet turned toward them, the red glow in his visor burning like fire. Ethan's mind raced. If the core could do one last massive discharge, it might end this, but it could also kill her. He looked at her. You can't do this again. Her silver eyes locked on his. If I don't, you die. And then I'm taken, she said simply. She placed her hands on the core, closing her eyes. The light began to grow, brighter and brighter. Ethan stood, putting himself between her and the commander. You want her? You'll have to go through me, he growled. The commander charged, but Ethan moved faster, grabbing the fallen rifle and firing into the cracks in the armor. The shot slowed him, but didn't stop him at the last moment. The girl's core released its full power. The blast was deafening. A sphere of blue-white light engulfed the entire room. The commander was thrown back with such force that his armor shattered, his body slamming lifeless against the wall. The remaining soldiers in the corridor collapsed as their weapons and armor shorted out completely. When the light faded, Ethan turned to the girl. She was slumped against the wall. Barely conscious, her skin was cold, her breathing faint. You're going to be okay, he said. Though his voice shook, her lips moved in a weak smile. Wasn't staring, huh? She whispered before her eyes closed. Ethan scooped her into his arms, holding her close. The core's glow was dim now, almost gone. He didn't know if it would ever come back, but he knew one thing. He wasn't letting her die here, with the station's alarms blaring in the distance. He carried her toward the shuttle, ready to make their final escape. The shuttle's engines roared to life. Ethan's hands gripped the controls tightly as he pushed them to full power. The mining station grew smaller in the viewport, fading into the darkness of space. Beside him, the alien girl lay strapped into the co-pilot's seat, her body weak and her breathing shallow. The core between her legs flickered faintly. Its once bright glow, now just a pale shimmer. Ethan's eyes kept darting toward it, each time feeling the same knot of worry in his chest. She hadn't spoken since the blast that killed the commander. Her silver hair rested over her face, hiding her closed eyes. He set a course for a distant medical outpost hidden in the asteroid belt. It was a place he'd heard about in his mercenary days, no questions asked, and doctors willing to treat anyone for the right price. This time, price didn't matter. He would pay anything to save her. Hours later, the shuttle touched down on the outpost's landing bay. Ethan scooped her into his arms and carried her inside. The air was warmer here, smelling faintly of fuel and antiseptic. A short alien doctor in a stained coat met him at the door, his large black eyes scanning the girl quickly. She's carrying something rare, the doctor said flatly. Ethan didn't bother to deny it. Can you remove it without killing her? He asked, the doctor's brow furrowed. Maybe? But it's bonded to her nervous system. I've never seen one integrated this deeply. Ethan's voice was firm. Then figure it out. The doctor gave a small nod and motioned for him to follow. They entered a dimly lit operating room. Ethan laid her on the table gently, his hands lingering for a moment on hers. She stirred faintly, her voice barely a whisper. Where are we? Somewhere safe, he said softly. They're going to get that thing out of you. Her eyes opened slightly, searching his face. You know? Once it's gone, I'm just another fugitive. Ethan's lips curved in a faint smile. Good. Means I'm not the only one anymore. The doctor began preparing his tools. Speaking in quick, low tones to his assistant, the core's faint glow pulsed irregularly, as if it too sensed what was coming. Ethan stood back, watching every move. His heart pounding, the girl's gaze didn't leave his, even as the sedative began to take hold. Why? She murmured. Why risk everything for me? Ethan hesitated, his voice low, because no one should be defined by what's forced on them. Her lips curved into the faintest smile before her eyes closed completely. The procedure lasted hours. Twice the monitors screamed warnings. And twice the doctor managed to stabilize her, finally, with a sound like metal releasing from stone. The core was detached. It lay on the tray beside the doctor, still pulsing faintly, but now separated from her body. Ethan felt a strange mix of relief and unease. When she woke, the room was quiet. Her eyes fluttered open, slowly. Adjusting to the light, her hands moved instinctively to where the core had been. It was gone, replaced by clean bandages. She blinked at Ethan, confusion and relief in her gaze. It's over, he said gently. You're free. Her throat tightened at the words. For so long she had dreamed of this moment, but never believed it would come. Now it was here, and it felt almost unreal. She sat up slowly, her legs shaky but hers again. Ethan stepped closer, offering his hand. She took it, the touch lingering. What happens now? She asked. He shrugged lightly. We get off this rock. Find somewhere the war can't touch you. She tilted her head. And you? He smiled faintly. Guess I'll stick around. Someone's got to make sure you don't get into trouble. Her silver eyes softened. That's funny. I was going to say the same about you. They left the medical bay together. The core remained behind, locked in a containment unit, its glow slowly fading into nothing. Ethan didn't look back. Neither did she. As they stepped onto the shuttle, the stars stretched out before them, endless, cold, and full of danger. But for the first time, neither of them felt alone. She glanced at him, a small, knowing smile on her lips. You really weren't staring, were you? He met her gaze with a smirk. No. But I'll admit, I see a lot more worth looking at now. The engines roared, lifting them into the black. Two fugitives, one promise, and a future that finally belonged to them.